Here we are in KSFO. Brian Sussman, Katie Green, guest in the studio. This is something that has been troubling to me for the longest time. And it involves that situation that I know you heard about up in eastern Oregon, Harney County. My wife's family has a 10,000-acre ranch up there. I know the area really well. I know the people very well, too. There was a guy up there named LaVoy Finicum. He was with a handful of protesters, and they were protesting so many things, including federal overreach, the Bureau of Land Management, and these other organizations within the federal government. I believe they're fascist organizations that are improperly controlling the people's land, the federal land. So there are some protesters up there, and the protesters, of course, made the news. And this LaVoy Finicum and some others were traveling from Burns, Oregon, in eastern Oregon, high desert country, to another town to meet with about 350 people about constitutional issues, land rights issues, etc. And along the way, they are stopped by there's a roadblock involving some Oregon State troopers and the FBI.
Stay down.
And during the course of this roadblock, LaVoy Finicum is shot and killed by the authorities. Now, I've always been suspect of this for a couple of reasons. One, I've seen the video. Okay, LaVoy Finicum is shot in the back. Two, he'd been coming and going from this place in eastern Oregon all the time. He posed no threat. The Oregon State troopers involved in the shooting were cleared. The authorities said no, the shooting was justified. But then we find that the FBI fired shots, which they lied about, and the investigation kind of just disappeared off the radar. I've also been suspect because these FBI agents were part of the hostage rescue team. Now, why does that bother me? If those of you who remember Waco, Texas, the hostage rescue team was involved there. They were sent out by the Clinton administration, and a lot of innocent people were killed in Waco, Texas, women and children included. The hostage rescue team, the shadowy organization, was also involved in Ruby Ridge, where innocent people were killed. Why was the hostage rescue team even there? Where were their hostages? Anyway, joining us in the broadcast with that lengthy setup is LaVoy Finicum's wife, Jeanette. She's joining us right now. Jeanette, did I do a proper setup here?
Yes, you did. Thank you for having me.
Where are we with all of this? What happened to the FBI's investigation? Because they fired 2 shots. This is very clear. They lied about it. They've tried to cover it up. What do you think's going on?
Well, I think that they don't want to take responsibility for their actions. And you discussed the hostage rescue team. I call it the kill squad because they came in and did their job and killed my husband.
Why were they sent into this situation? Again, your husband posed no threat.
Right.
They could have arrested him if they wanted to at any particular time. He'd been coming and going from eastern Oregon many, many times.
Right. He came all the way home and spoke to
Arizona.
He came all the way home to Arizona and then drove into Utah, spoke to a group of ranchers, again, about their constitutional rights, about the land right issues. And then drove all the way back. And when I visited with him up there just 2 days before he was killed, we came and went. We went to church. We went to breakfast. Ammon came and went. Ryan came and went. They went and visited with the FBI on a couple of occasions to their headquarters there in Burns. They could have arrested any of these men at any time going in and out peacefully.
Why did they decide, to the best of your knowledge, to set up this roadblock to stop these people as they were on their way, legitimately, to a big meeting with a lot of other people who were very critical of the federal government's overreach and land use issues and constitutional issues? Why was this roadblock established, to the best of your knowledge?
Well, I think the week before, some of the officials in Oregon were getting a little nervous because their message was catching on. And the comment was made, we need to stop the virus. We need to stop the virus from spreading. And they're referring to the Constitution. They're referring to people understanding what that document represents and how it affects them personally. And so with them being invited to John Day, the neighboring county, with 350 people waiting for them to come hear what they had to say and how that they could help themselves, that's what they were worried about. They had to stop them from more people standing up.
Somebody gave the order here to set up this roadblock. Do we know who that was?
I think it came all the way from Washington, D.C.
I believe that as well.
That is my personal opinion.
And then why would this mysterious hostage rescue team, again, Jeanette Finicum is with us, LaVoy Finicum's wife. Jeanette, we're all for law enforcement. We appreciate their services, etc. But this hostage rescue team is so shadowy. This was the same group involved in Waco. This was the same group involved in Ruby Ridge. These were orders that came down from Washington, D.C. Why would they be there? Who were the hostages that they were supposed to be rescuing?
There were no hostages. And what I find very interesting that they had their agenda and they knew exactly how they were going to proceed. But they also had the media on standby. They called it a traffic stop, and that's what went across the world.
Right.
We were stopped at a traffic stop, and then there was a shooting, and implying that my husband deserved to be shot. What happened is they were ambushed. That is my personal opinion. They were ambushed.
Well,
who would have known? They took 2 days to set up that roadblock. That is not a routine traffic stop.
And there were guys, coming out of the woods. I've seen the aerial video. There were guys coming out of the woods.
Snipers.
And your husband was shot in the back, to the best of my knowledge, correct?
Uh-huh.
In the back, with his hands up.
With his hands up, shot in the back 3 times.
So there have been investigations regarding the Oregon State Troopers saying, well, they were justified in their shooting and killing of your husband. There were subsequent investigations, we were told, of the FBI because 2 shots from their guns were fired. That's been proven. FBI agents on the scene tried to cover this up. What happened to that investigation?
I have no idea. It's just fallen off the face of the earth. 2 hands up does not justify murder.
No.
No. This is an assassination.
And I believe there's probably better video available because I'm guessing these agents probably had
head cams,
forward-facing head cams, but we've never seen any of that.
No, I don't think we're going to see a lot of things. I have yet to see the truck. My finance company can't get to see the truck.
Which
my
was
insurance
shot up
company,
as well,
which was
and there
shot
were
up.
Other occupants, innocent people in the truck ducking for their lives, and it's all recorded.
Yes, Ryan was shot in the arm. That's another whole story in itself. The bullets came from every angle. You could see as LaVoy was exiting the truck upon slamming into the snowbank, he immediately opens the door, thrusts his hands in the air, and just as he does, that window is blown out. They did not wait to see if he had a weapon in his hand. They did not wait to see if he was a threat. They shot at that truck all along the way. And there's something wrong with that. We people need to stand up to this type of tyranny.
When it comes to the land right issues that these guys were, I believe, effectively protesting, because they were getting the word out. What were those issues? If you could boil it down into a nutshell, what were the issues at hand that were so concerning to these men, including yourself?
Well, they're businessmen, just like you, and they're running their ranch. They didn't feel that they needed the government to be a partner in that business.
Right.
They didn't feel that they needed to be told what to do with their business. They were capable ranchers. And so that is the premise. That is where it begins. They wanted to have more say and not be held to the rules and regulations that they were setting up.
If people only knew, and I know a little bit about this because my wife's family has the ranch up in Eastern Oregon, the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, so out of control. And then you add into it the Department of Interior and the EPA, et cetera. I mean, it's as if they're trying to put ranchers and farmers out of business.
Absolutely. That is their agenda. That
all
is
in the
their
name
goal.
of the environment. Just clear them from the landscape. We want to return this land back to nature. We don't like the cows are an invasive species, et cetera. I mean, that's my opinion, but you're the rancher. You know.
Yeah, that is actually what is happening. I know that in my particular case, ever since my husband was murdered, I have had nothing but trouble from the BLM. And you would think that they would want to work with me and not cause any more harm. But no, that has not been the case. I have tried to negotiate with them, and it has not served me well. What
can this audience do for you? I mean, what what's the next step here? What do we need to do to build awareness on this? Are you hopeful, as another question, are you hopeful that this administration may turn the tide in Washington,
Yes.
D.C.?
I am hopeful. Watching who he is putting into his into the different offices, I am very hopeful that there will be some change, and that the EPA, for instance, will not have as much influence and strong arm on all
Right.
the other agencies that we're having to deal with as ranchers and farmers and loggers and miners. They're setting all the rules, and they're strong-arming the BLM. They're making it harder for me, the widow, to negotiate my specific circumstance, because these other people are holding them accountable as well. So I'm having to deal with different environmental groups. I'm having to deal with the BLM, the Forest Service. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Jeanette Finicum, thank you for spending some time with us this morning. What we'll end up doing is taking this interview, creating a podcast so we can have maximum exposure to get the word out on this. Really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Excellent.